Hey, I think I'm live. I think I'm live. Okay, we're coming on. We are coming on live. Thank you for joining me. Give me 1 second to just make sure that we are on all streaming platforms. I do not believe we are streaming on Instagram yet. So I am going to make sure that we go live on Instagram. Somehow it's not connecting on Instagram like it's supposed to. Okay, now it says I'm live on Instagram. It also says I am live on all of my other platforms. If you are with me, feel free to send me a chat. Let me see. I want to make sure I can connect all the chats. Get everybody going. Yes, we are here. We are here. We are here. All right. So if you're with me, feel free to just send me a message. Just say, hey, I have the chats going on my other screen here. Good afternoon and officially welcome. Welcome all of you who are joining me today. Before we dive in, I really want to ground us in a verse that just means a lot to me. That verse is coming out of Ephesians, the second chapter, the 10th verse, which says, for we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus so we can do the things that he planned for us long ago. So what's really key and important about that scripture is that you are not an accident. You are not a mistake. The business that you're building or that you would like to build, the dream that won't let you go, that thing that's been holding on to you, that's part of what he planned for you long ago. So thank you for so much for joining me again. We are here. This is day 2 of my 90-day challenge. Every single day I'm showing up live to encourage women who are ready to start their own businesses, or women who've already started but they need extra support to grow their business or get their business off the ground, and women who are looking to build and grow what they've already started. So, for those of you who are new here, I want to thank you for coming. I'm Dr. Tonya. You can also call me Tonya. And this is Dr. Tonya Live, real talk for women businesses. I'm sorry, for women building their businesses. So, this is what we're talking about. So, today we are talking about the dream that you keep postponing. So, grab your lunch, get comfortable, and let's get into today's topic. So, hey there, thank you for joining me. So, I'm excited about doing this again because this is the second day of this 90-day challenge. So, yesterday I came on, I did a little bit of introductions. I told you a little bit about myself, a little bit about why I'm doing this, and I gave you a little bit of my story. And I'll always share pieces of my story. But today I really want to hone in on a topic that I think hopefully will resonate with you. And that topic is really about um, when we have dreams and we allow those dreams to be postponed. So I have a question for you, and I would love if you are tuning in live with me. I would love for you to be able to just respond with a, you know, with a response to this question. So, what does it mean when you are postponing a dream? Okay, so we know what postponing means, like on the surface. That's not what I mean. But what is it actually? What's going on if for somebody who is postponing a dream? Okay, so I asked that question because many of you have dreams that you're sitting on, dreams that you know God has given you to do, things that you know you're supposed to be doing that perhaps you haven't taken that step of faith to do yet. You are postponing it. So there are a lot of reasons why people postpone, but I'm curious to know, what do you think? What do you think might be the reason why people postpone um, a dream that they have, a dream that they know that God has given them? So let's talk about that. Is it just an excuse that people are making? Um, is it because of something else? Is it because of things like fear? And we need to talk about fear because fear holds us hostage in so many ways. So I want to talk about that just for a few minutes, and we'll talk more about fear as we go through these 90 days, because fear really is something that causes people to have challenges. Um I see it looks like my friend, is that Bobby on there or his wife? Um, you are talking you made a comment about fear producing procrastination. I think so too. I agree. But what is behind that? Like, what is behind the fear that creates this procrastination? Okay, so when we talk about procrastination, hey Bobby, when we talk about procrastination, we really are talking about putting things off. Okay, so like, okay, I'll get to that at some point. I'll do that later. I'll do that at some other point. But really what we're doing is we are avoiding. And it's really a case of avoidance. But why are we avoiding doing the thing that needs to be done? Now, for some of us, it's an easy answer. For others of us, we really are going to have to think about what it is that causes us to procrastinate and to avoid walking in our purpose or walking in our calling and doing the very thing that God has called us to. So, if it's fear, let's tackle that for a little bit. Okay, so what is the source of that fear? Now, I confess that I too have grappled with fear as it relates to sitting on a dream or not moving forward with the dream. So, this business that I run and operate and founded, and I run with my wonderful, dynamic, amazing business partner, Dr. Erica. I actually started the business in 2011. I started the business really to help school districts help students be successful. And at the time that I started the business, I was leaving my post as a principal of a school that I had turned around. I had had incredible success doing that, not by myself, but with the help of some very dedicated teachers and motivated students. And we did a lot of work to make that happen. And so I wanted to start this business. I embarked upon starting this business. And actually, that part wasn't the hard part for me. And fear actually did not bother me. But I told you yesterday, if you tuned in yesterday, and if not, that's okay, I'll share again just briefly. I told you yesterday that 6 months into starting this business, the business actually was failing. I had literally only made $1,200. That's $1,200 compared to the six figures I had been making as a school principal. So you can imagine the fear that gripped me when, and I shared this yesterday, when I got a letter um, from the mortgage company saying that my house was in foreclosure. Now, I want to just tell you this, we did not lose the house. Okay, so at some point, the business did get off the ground, and I'll talk through that a different day, but I kind of want to touch on this fear piece. But even though it got off the ground, I struggled. I struggled because I really didn't know what was a fair price to charge my clients. And I later learned that I was probably charging people about a tenth of what the market could bear. But I didn't learn that until much later. And and so we were struggling. We were struggling in the business. And as we were struggling, I know that it created stress in our household. I know it created stress for my husband. Although he was very supportive of me being a business owner, that stress did bear fruit in different ways. So I want to fast forward a little bit. Um, the business was doing well enough that we had the kind of recognition and support. And at this time, I didn't have Dr. Erica. I didn't even know her yet. However, God, when I opened up with the scripture, we're God's masterpiece, created anew, so we can do the good things He's planned for us long ago. He really does have plans for us, plans to prosper us, not to harm us, plans to give us a future and a hope. And because of those plans, this I never saw while working as an entrepreneur those first 7 years. But about 7 years in, I get a call to come and interview at the Department of Education in New Jersey. So I started developing a reputation, and the work that I was doing was actually really meaningful and making a difference in school districts. I really was blessed to be able to make an impact. And so I got invited to interview. I had no idea what I was interviewing for. So that's favor. I mean, favor actually really was at play here. But I got invited to interview for a job that I had no idea what I was interviewing for. And eventually I get hired in a leadership role at the Department of Ed. And I was there for nearly 4 years. That's where I met Dr. Erica. And meeting her, I know was a God plan. It absolutely was so when he has plans for you, you got to like listen and follow whatever the plans God has for your life, because he is not going to steer you wrong. He is not going to send you down a road that you can't where you can't, where you're going to go the wrong direction. He's just not going to do that, because that's not how he works. And you're right. Yes, Tasha, touch it to Neil. God's favor is awesome because it will open doors that you may not have imagined being opened. And God's favor will open doors um, that maybe you were asking to be opened, or doors that no man can shut. And so that's what's really powerful about God's favor. So I'm working at the department. I meet Dr. Erica. It is an amazing encounter. We just like hit it off right from the start. Turned out we both were going to the same church. Actually, I had met her at church, but didn't really know her. We lived in the same community, sent our kids to the same elementary and middle schools. I sent my kids elsewhere for high school, but I didn't know her. And so I remember when I found out that she was coming to work at the department. I didn't know it was her. I just knew that, we were going to go welcome, a new person that was coming, whose name was Erica. And when I see her, I was like, "Oh, it's you," and it's like I had met you before. It was really sweet and cute. But we just hit it off. So we started talking, and then we started collaborating on some projects together. And I just loved how she thought. And so there we just meshed, and things were going really well in terms of the connection that we made. I started feeling as though I was supposed to go back out and um, relaunch my company. And it had kind of been dormant for the years that I was working at the department. And believe me, I was actually enjoying myself at the department. I felt like I was making a difference. Um, that's where, when I was there, I went back and got my doctorate from NYU. Shout out to NYU. And I just felt like I need to start this business again. My approach then wasn't, let me pray about this. Not initially, although at some point I did do that. And then it got to the point where it was time for me to step back out on faith and relaunch this business, bringing on Dr. Erica as my business partner. And that happened a few months after relaunching. But prior to relaunching, I thought I heard the Lord give me a date. And the date was August 20th. I got so nervous thinking about that date because at this point it was July. Like we're talking like less than a month um before I was supposed to leave, and I didn't have anything set up. Like I was really like very nervous. My inkling was to postpone it because I wasn't sure, like, am I hearing from God? Is this really what he's telling me? And I was fearful that if I'd launch back out at that point without having things in place, without having an assurance that I was going to be successful, would I fail? Because I knew what it felt like to fail. Remember, I shared the story yesterday and a little bit earlier that when I first started the business, the first 6 months, I had only made $1,200. So I was scared. I was very scared. And what I didn't want to do was put pressure on my husband again and stress him out and make things really difficult. I was really nervous. And so my inclination was to postpone. but I had to address those fears. And I also had to go before God about why am I afraid to move forward? Why do I feel like I want to procrastinate and not do the thing that is like inside of me? And I knew, and the thing is, I knew that I had heard from God. There was no doubt. And he confirmed it. So that was the other thing. Like getting that confirmation was like, I still was scared. Like I could not relax and rest. So what I realized was that fear was also a lack of trust in God. And many times we will have fears because we don't trust the direction that God is taking us. We don't trust that what He is providing for us is going to going to be there. We don't trust that we're going to be successful. And the list goes on and on. And so fear, we've got to look at where fear is rooted and what's behind the fear. So for some people, for me, I described it was a lack of trust. But that might not be your story. That might not be why you might be procrastinating in moving forward with your business. I mean, there are women that I know who are like procrastinating retirement because they're not sure that the thing that God has given them to do is what they're supposed to do. And I'm here to tell you that if God gave it to you, he has provided a way for you to be able to do it. And I'm a living witness that when we move forward in what God has given for us to do and we're obedient, he is going to open up the doors and he's going to open up pathways for us. That's just how he operates. And so when we're looking at fear, sometimes those fears, like part of my fear was also that fear of money. So I knew what it was to lack. And I also knew what it was to have plenty. And I was fearful that if I stepped out on faith without things being in place, was I going to put myself in a position that didn't allow me to do the things that I wanted to do? Was I going to put us in a situation where we're going to be behind on our bills again, where we were going to have challenges with um, you know doing the things that we need to do at the time? Did I still have kids in college? Nope, nope. Nope. Both of the kids had graduated from college, but we still had a lot of debt. And so that was a concern that I have. Bobby, I see you making a statement. Some people are I guess accustomed to living in lack. Yeah, you're right. And has made it normal to hold back due to the feelings associated with that lack. That is true. Um, People, it's almost like the devil that you know versus the devil that you don't know. So people will sit on the thing that they know because at least they can, it's familiar. People are uncomfortable when they're in spaces where they are not familiar, where things are not familiar. And when you're stepping out on faith, it's not familiar. When we're stepping out on faith, it's like you can't see all that is in front of you because faith is knowing and believing, but it's not necessarily having the picture of what every single step moving forward is going to look like. And so when we are taking a step of faith, we are taking a step of trust. We are saying, hey, I want to trust God. But the fears that hold us back from taking those steps of faith, those fears, like, I'm comfortable where I am. And even where you are might not be where God would have you to be. Remember, he's got good plans for you. And are those good plans where you are today? Does he want you to stay where you are right now? Because what happens to a lot of us is we get so comfortable where we are, even if where we are isn't all that God has for us, because he may have so much more. The other thing is a lot of us will get caught up in, I'm also looking at some of the comments coming through too. Yeah, and people listen to naysayers. You're right. Um, yeah, and not everybody is going to understand our testimony. Thank you for commenting. The naysayers are another reason that fear comes in to play. So let's talk about that because some folks will say, "Are you crazy? Are you crazy for stepping out doing something and you can't predict what your income is going to be, or you can't predict whether you're going to have success. I said this yesterday. Starting a business is a risk. But if God gave that business to you, don't you think that He is going to also provide for you? We often get so caught up in our fears that we stop believing what God is capable of doing. And when I shared the testimony yesterday about the foreclosure notice, that foreclosure notice really did stop me in my tracks momentarily. And I really, when I say I wept like a baby, I did. I mean, I was like almost like the, because I felt embarrassed. I felt like I had let my family down. I felt like a failure. And, but that wasn't what God wanted me to see in that. He also wanted me to see that these were small beginnings and we can't despise the small beginnings, but we do that. We don't see things happening the way we want them to happen, and we panic and we become fearful, and then we freeze. We get paralyzed and we don't move forward with what God has given us to do or has called us to do. You might be sitting on a business idea right now, or you might have a business that you started and you haven't done anything with it. And God is waiting for you to take a step of faith. He's waiting for you to move. And faith isn't just a belief, faith is also combined with movement, with action, with works. So faith without works is dead. So I can say that I believe, but if nothing that I'm doing indicates I believe I can start this business, I believe I can succeed at starting this business, if nothing that I do demonstrates that belief or backs up that belief, then that belief might as well be dead. It doesn't exist. It must mean that I don't really believe that. I'm challenging you. Like, what is it that God has put inside of you that you know you're supposed to be doing, that you are sitting on because you don't believe or because you haven't taken the step of faith in demonstration of your belief to be able to um to be obedient to what he has given you to do. Um and yeah, we can't always predict how this is going to work out. We don't always know. What I do know is when that notice came, after my husband kind of like slapped me into reality with you got to look at what's in your faith and not what's in your face. After that happened, it did cause me to have to refocus my attention. So when we are fearful, our attention is on the wrong thing. Our attention is not on what God has given us. Our attention is not on who He is and who He has made you to be. Our attention is on the lies that the enemy is whispering in our ears, giving us all kinds of reasons for why we can't move forward. And so my husband said that to me. He says, look at what's in your faith, not what's in your face. And to look at what's in my faith caused me to refocus my attention on God. Okay, so that fear that I was feeling with that um, notice, that fear it was real. It was real. Like I really did feel it. But I had to allow my faith to be stronger than that fear. And by allowing my faith to be stronger than that fear, it meant that I had to turn off the noise that was causing me to either feel inadequate, feel like I was a failure, feel like I was letting my family down, um, feel like an imposter in some ways because I had stepped out, leaving this secure position where I was successful to now this space that I had never been in before. I say all this because the reality is when we step out on business, we step out and do what God has shown us and has told us we're supposed to do. Things may not look great all the time in our eyes. But how many of you know that God has bigger plans and God sees the bigger picture and He knows what's coming? He also knows what the experiences are going to do in you and for you. So for me, the experience of getting this foreclosure notice, this fear that I had that like kind of swept over me in that moment, and eventually causing me to have to reposition my thinking and reposition my thoughts on the one who had given me the dream in the first place. That was significant for me. That was like a turning point, but it was also a growth process. So it showed me that while I stepped out here on faith and I was doing something that I believe God was showing me to do, I missed something in the process, and it showed me I missed some of the preparation that I needed in before stepping out here. um, I needed to learn more about business. So I knew a whole lot about my field. I knew a lot about education. Um, I could talk about it for days and I still can. But what I didn't know a lot about was business. And so God had to humble me as well because I was used to being successful. So part of that journey was a journey of humility and growth. And that season taught me that I needed to do some things to prepare myself. So maybe that's you. Maybe you need to prepare yourself. Maybe that procrastination, if you're looking at what's behind that procrastination, what's behind the fears there, maybe the fear is that you're not ready. Maybe the fear is that you don't know enough to be able to move into, your next. And so I would say to you, prepare yourself. Like what's important gets done. I heard that said a long time ago. And I believe that. If it's important for you to do the thing that God has called you to do, which in this case, based on this conversation, might be to start a new business or to get that business off the ground and to build it, perhaps what you need to do is to take a step back and look at what it is that you don't know and who might be able to help you learn what you don't know. So for me, there was a program offered by one of the universities that I enrolled in, and that program taught me the things that I didn't know. We don't know everything when we're starting a business, but that's also some of the work that I do. So why I'm doing this 90-day live is because I don't want you to have the same mistakes and trip up on the same things that I tripped up on early on in my business. I don't want you to have the fears that I had because when we are prepared, there's less fear. When we don't have to be as afraid when we know what we're supposed to be doing. So I'll give you like a really simple example. I often get nervous when, like, I'm a singer, so I often get nervous when I have to sing. And you might not always be able to tell, but leading up to that singing moment, especially if I'm singing by myself and there's no one there, I might get so nervous that I'm like, tripping up over like, do I know the words? Am I going to remember this transition? And people are going to be looking at me, and it's really silly, but that's what fear can do. Fear can like whisper these things in your ears that really aren't true, that really get you off track, that make you forget what you're supposed to be doing and why you're supposed to be doing it, who you're supposed to be helping or encouraging, or what problems you're supposed to be solving by doing the thing. So fear gets you all messed up in the head so that you aren't able to do what you're supposed to do. But the more prepared you are, so if I had to sing and didn't know the music, those nerves are they're probably legit, meaning, yeah, you didn't prepare yourself. But if I prepared myself, when I get out there, those nerves may be whatever they're going to be, but I'm not going to fall flat on my face because I'm prepared. That's just another piece of, and that's true. Like that's something that I've experienced as well. We have to it is really important that we understand what God has called us to do and that we do it and don't postpone the dreams, because when we are postponing dreams that God has put in our hearts, we are postponing somebody's blessing. So what we have is to what we have, that we are going to, that whatever problem we're going to solve, whatever thing we're supposed to be doing to walk in our purpose, it's not for us. It's for someone else. It's for the benefit of others. And so if it's for the benefit of others, if we postpone it, then somebody is not getting the blessing that they're supposed to get from you doing the thing that God has told you to do. So for me, with the business, when I was fearful about relaunching this business in 2021, what I would have missed out on if I didn't relaunch it would have been the opportunity to connect with this amazing woman and the ability to go into schools and help change some of the thinking and the way that people are doing what they're doing in schools. I wouldn't be able to help improve instructional practices or leadership practices. I wouldn't be able to help improve student achievement if I had continued to postpone and procrastinate. There are people waiting for what you have to offer. There are people who need what you have to offer. You can't afford to postpone the dream that God has put inside of you. Here's the other thing I want to say. God has already seen the beginning and the end. He already knows what's going to happen. So if he gave it to you, he already knows that you're going to be successful. It's your job to walk it out. Walk it out. Step out on faith. Get past that fear that's causing you to postpone and procrastinate whatever it is that God has called you to do, and walk it out and do it. Just do it. Like that is your job, to do what he has designed for you to do. Maybe you're still nervous about it, but do it anyway. Do it anyway. That's what I would encourage you to do. In fact, while I'm going through these 90 days, I want to challenge you that in 90 days, you are going to take a step every single day, one little step, whatever it is, towards fulfilling the dream that God has put inside of you. I don't know what that dream looks like. I don't know what that step looks like, but take one step and do it. Just do exactly what he has called you to do. So, um, I also want to encourage you to reach out to me. So, perhaps what you've heard me say today may have resonated with you in some way. And while there's more that we can talk about, and we've got 88 more days to talk about it, I'm going to end today's session, but I want to thank you for spending your lunchtime with me today. I really don't take it lightly. If this conversation did resonate with you in some way, I would love to hear from you. I want you to inbox me or send me a message or shoot me an email. I read all of my emails. You can visit me on my website, Tonya, Tonya, Breland, BRELAND.com, or you can email me directly at Tonya. The email is Tonya@TonyaBreland.com. Until tomorrow at noon, we're going to do this again. Tomorrow, we're going to tackle the topic. Hold on, I'm going to tell you 1 second. Tomorrow's topic is, wait, I got it. I got it right here. Naming the fear out loud. So tomorrow we're going to dive a little deeper into this fear thing. And later this week, I actually am going to have a free gift that I'm going to give to you. I'll share more about that as we come. But thank you for joining me today. I am so grateful to have had you with me, and I hope to hear from you soon. God bless you all. Have a great rest of your day.